Hey guys, this is Matt. Welcome back to the channel. With the dash back in the car, I really have just a lot of trim pieces that need to go back. There are a few things that I need to address, like with the shifter. Aircon bezel needs some work on it because it's got a lot of broken tabs. I started looking at it and I wanted to go ahead and get the B-pillar side panels put back in the car. The way that those actually, they kind of overlap the rear trim pieces. So I went ahead and pulled everything out of the back of the car because I wasn't sure if this is stuff that would just be able to be cleaned and put back in the car, or if I'm gonna have to paint anything, because I'll show you in a minute, but I do have some pieces that they're definitely gonna have to be painted because they're really faded and got some paint on them already. So I wanted to go ahead and get the B-pillar panels put back in, but everything kind of has to be like put in sequence, or you're going to get into a situation where you're not going to be able to put something in because it has to go underneath or over top or whatever another piece. So I just went ahead and pulled everything out so I could take inventory of what I've got and what needs to be painted. I'm hoping I could just clean these up. I have my doubts on a few parts, and then maybe use some like back to black kind of plastic restorer and see if that gets them good enough to go back in the car. But if I do have to paint anything, I do want to paint all the pieces that kind of go with it, so that they all look the same. There is no inconsistencies. Basically everything here are parts that go to the back of the car. So I'll have to go through and figure out which ones are in good shape and which ones might need to be painted. And if there's enough that need to be painted, then I'm probably just gonna have to paint all of them. I'll grab the camera and show you guys a little bit up close of what we've got to do today. And then we'll get started cleaning some of these and see what we're able to do. So the speaker grills that go into the rear side panels, they're in okay shape, but they do need a little touch up. So I may go ahead and just respray these just to get them nice and fresh looking. And then I've got lots of the pieces that go around the back hatch area that are just really scratched up. Eventually I'd probably look at replacing these because they're like some of them are really got some gouges in them and texture. And then I've got a few pieces like these are the covers that go over like where the rear taillights are. They've got some overspray and they're probably faded from years of potentially being exposed. So these are definitely gonna have to get cleaned up. And this is the centerpiece that goes with these. So something like that, I'm gonna have to go ahead and just paint those anyway. And then a lot of the covers and things I've got, they're okay. They're not too bad. So these might be just something that can be cleaned up. I do have some rusty bits and pieces, and I do want to get some paint on the shifter just to go ahead and get that protected for the long term. But I will go ahead and clean up some of this stuff so that if I'm painting, I can just go ahead and hit those with paint while I'm at it. The side panel pieces are probably the worst, at least when it comes to the scratching. Overall, there's no damage to them. They're not cracked. I have all the tabs and the clips, so I'm happy with that. But there are a lot of little scratches and nicks and stuff that have kind of show up on both pieces, and it just makes them look really bad, even though I think I've tried to clean these already just with some wiping them down with some cleaner. I don't know if, like I said, some sort of plastic restorer or back to black type product would clean that up, but we're going to find out. I'm going to get this stuff kind of cleared up so that I can get some space to work, and I'm going to go ahead and start cleaning these down. Probably just go ahead and get all the dirt and grime off of them first, check them out after that, and maybe do a little test area with some of the different products that I've got and see, what might work to get these looking like new again. Some of these pieces, like I said, are definitely gonna have to be sanded down and painted, so I'll work on those as well. And then I'm sure I've showed you this before, but this is probably the only piece of trim I have left in my car that has the original, like the early 92, 93 finish, where it's kind of like a rubberized, smooth rubberized texture that just gets scratched and then just looks nasty after a while. So everything else I have has got the textured finish, even on my console. This will probably be a little more intense repair. I have looked for replacements, but for the amount of money people were asking for them, I didn't feel like they were any better condition than the one I've got. So this will be fully taken apart to where I can get this sanded up, get all this coating off of it. And then I've got a couple different products to try to get this painted. Now, I'm probably not going to get the rubberized texture. I had thought about maybe doing like a truck bed type, lining on it first just to get that texture, and then spraying it black, that matches the rest of the car. After it's cleaned up, then I'll evaluate what I need to do to make it look nice for the car. I decided before I got too far into the process that I would just do some testing on one of the pieces where I could see if just cleaning it up would do anything. Using different products to restore the plastic would help at all. The hatch comes and latches right here, so this is the very back inside piece of the hatch area. And I scrubbed the whole thing down with degreaser. I taped off an area over there and taped off the area over here. I used Meguiar's Ultimate Black on this test section. I followed all the instructions. It does say you can use multiple coats if there is, you know, if you have a very faded piece, but I just did one heavy coat, let it soak for a few minutes, and then wiped off all the excess. On this side, I used Gtechniq C4 Permanent Trim Restorer. Now, this is a very expensive product. Considering you only get a few ounces of the actual product itself. It says it's permanent, so I wanted to try it. It had mixed reviews online. Let you have your own opinion on which one did a better job. Like I said, this center section was just clean with degreaser, and I might have got a little overlap between the products, but for the most part, this is just degreaser scrubbed down with a microfiber. You know, I went over this really well, try to get off any dirt and grime, but it really did nothing where there was scratches or gouges in the plastic. The Gtechniq C4 is more like a watery, you know, substance, and you just put on a few dabs on an applicator and then rub it in, let it sit for 5 minutes, and then wipe off the excess. So I followed the instructions on both of these pretty well, though I only did one heavy application of the Meguiar's. Honestly, I think the Meguiar's has probably produced the shinier surface. You know, it's got a lot more gloss. The Gtechniq, you know, it probably made a deeper black. And like I said, it's really hard to pick up on the camera, but with, you know, here in person, it looks like a more natural, deeper black trim color. So each one has its merits. You know, this does say it's permanent, so who knows if it really is. The thing that I've determined either way is that neither of these products or cleaning the trim is going to do anything about the significant scratches that are all over. You know, it really did almost nothing to make the scratches kind of blend in. So I kind of have a decision to make whether I just want to go ahead and try to do, you know, use these products on all of this and just kind of let it be what it is, and then eventually hunt down some better pieces that aren't as scratched up. Or I could clean all these up really well and take them outside and shoot some paint. I do have various trim and vinyl paints, and I got all kinds of different stuff that I could try and see which one will or have the best finish. I think for like a piece like this that doesn't really have any scratches, one of these products will do great, because that'll really make this shine and look brand new. But anything that has exposed, you know, cut plastic or scratches, I don't think either of these products are going to do anything for that. Now, these three pieces that go around the hatch, the main pieces, maybe those are worth just going ahead and trying to spray. If they look like crap, oh well, I'll have the plans to replace them, but I'll do a good job and do surface prep and use, you know, plastic adhesion promoter and all that kind of stuff, so that the paint job at least turns out well. Again, I don't know how well it's going to hide any of these scratches or make anything look worse. I guess I still need to go ahead and clean these pieces regardless, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I may take this and scrub it down and take it outside and try to shoot some paint on it and see if that makes it look any better. If it's just going to be a lot of trouble and make a big mess, and then I'm still going to not be happy, I probably won't do that on any other pieces. But for now, I'll get the rest of these cleaned up. So I thought this was a little bit interesting that after I cleaned this piece up with alcohol, you basically can't even tell where the Gtechniq product was. You still get a little bit of the gloss from Ultimate Black, but you know, after a little bit of isopropyl alcohol, I can't even tell where some of that product was applied. So I don't know what that's a function of. It just is, you know, coming off or not having let it sit here for very long. This will be my test piece that I go ahead and paint. So again, I've already wiped it down with alcohol. I may do that again. I do have some surface prep that I can spray on and wipe it down as well. Then I have some plastic adhesion promoter. So basically this will be a few light coats on here right before we decide to go paint. And then for my paint, I have been using this vinyl and fabric Duplicolor just because I can get this locally. This SEM is really, it's a good paint, and a lot of people recommend it. So I do have some of that to try as well in satin black. And just for reference, this is a piece that I painted a while back with the Duplicolor vinyl and fabric paint. And I don't have any complaints. I sprayed it both on the metal grill because the metal grill had some rust spots on it, and I went ahead and sprayed around the trim. It does have a little bit of a sheen to it, but you know, when I held it up to the dash, you know, with the dash having you know, some sort of product on it, it looked pretty much the same. I'm not sure if I'll go ahead and use this. I might, just because I may be able to save this for maybe some of the front trim pieces that I need to paint, like on the door and on the dash. But for these back pieces that I'm really not going to be messing with a whole lot, I may just go ahead and use the same product that I've been using on some of this other stuff, because the results have been pretty good. So that's hopefully what everything will look like when it's all painted. I need to get all this cleaned up, take it outside, shoot some paint on it, and I'll check back in when we've got a few coats on. I've gone through and I've cleaned up all the pieces for the hatch area in the back of the FD, and I'm just showing you this piece because it's the one you kind of saw in the last clip. This one received 3 coats of the vinyl and fabric paint. This is actually a flat black. They do make a gloss, but I figured with the black would probably be, or the flat would probably be a little bit more closer to the original finish. This one I did go ahead after it sat for a couple days after being painted, and I did use the back to black product over top of this to kind of give it, you know, a sheen, which this one actually looks quite a bit shinier. It does kind of match some of the other items that I've used the back to black on. It isn't perfect. You can still see a lot of the imperfections, but you know, looking at it here in person, it is all black. You don't see any of the gray or discoloration from where the scratches were, and it's just got some lint and dust on it right now, but it does look really good. So I've gone through and I've done everything that I had, and I don't know if you remember, these pieces had a lot of overspray on them, so those look really nice and brand new. And even these big trim pieces turned out really nice after I sprayed them down. I think I have a before and after picture, or I took a picture during while I was working on these that show what it looks like with just the flat paint. And it does look quite a bit more flat than what this would look like, or even this. But again, I hit everything with back to black over top of the paint to give it kind of that little bit of a sheen back. All of this is ready to go back in the back of the car. I did spend some time cleaning the back of the car and cleaning up a little bit of the wiring that was behind some of this trim. These are the basic clips that hold a lot of this trim in. They tend to be, they're not difficult to remove. They're just the kind you pop the center out, and once the center's popped out, then these usually just pull right out. They do get a little bit brittle over time. They do kind of, some of these little flaps that spread out when you push it in do break off. And of course these just tend to get broken or stuck in the doors or wherever. So I wanted to source some new ones just to replace some of the ones I was missing and some of the damaged ones that I have. And so I'll put the part numbers for all this in the description below. But you know, these are the genuine Mazda replacement parts. Depending on where you get them, they can be a few dollars per clip. So I mean, if you needed like 20 clips, you could be dropping anywhere from 60 to 80, even more dollars to buy all the individual ones. Now some places do sell them, like I got packs of 5, and I think I got 10 for $20. So I roughly pay $2 per clip for OE Mazda parts. I did track this number down and compare it to some other products, and I did find this company on Amazon that sold them. Now I don't know how much of this will get picked up in the camera, but overall they look pretty much identical. They are a little bit longer, but they're also just a little bit rougher around the edges. So I would say, all things considered, they're not as nice as the Mazda ones, which is to be expected. I'll put a link in the description, but I got a lot of these for just a few dollars. Like, I don't know if it was 20 for like $5 or $6. So I will put links to both of these in the description and the part numbers, but you know, this is a cheaper alternative to buying the OEM ones, and kind of the same thing with these clips. The OE Mazda ones are more expensive, but there's several manufacturers that make basically the same clip. Some that have a little bit of felt or a foam on them, and then some that don't. But you know, I probably bought this pack of 50 for a few dollars, and then this same company makes these clips as well. So I've got a whole bunch of different ones to try. Again, the OE Mazda ones I'll probably put in the most visible locations so that you know, they just look nice compared to some of them. But these cheaper ones I might need to kind of sand some of the edges because there's some little plastic nibs and things that hang off, but they look like they're going to work otherwise. Really, now everything can start going back in the car, and I'll check in once I've got kind of this back stuff installed, and then after that we'll be able to go back to the inside and get the B-pillar panels installed and work our way forward. Hey guys, this is me from the future, and I wanted to go ahead and cut the video off here because it's definitely going on too long. I did want to highlight a couple things real quick, and the primary reason to go through all this trouble of refinishing the plastics are the trim pieces are only going to get harder to find as time goes on. So, doing your best to repurpose what you have is probably going to be the easiest thing for most of us. And then obviously the big cost factor, the elbow grease and a little bit of products that I've been using to refinish these plastics has saved me probably hundreds of dollars. I mean, several $100s. I just want to say that real quick while I end this video, but everything is already back in the car. It looks amazing. It's not perfect. There are little flaws here and there, but given the age of the car, that's gonna happen. I'm really happy with the way things have turned out. There's a few more videos we gotta get through that kind of lead us up through that process. If you stick around and watch all those videos, I think you'll be just as impressed as I am on how things kind of turned out. So as always, I'm gonna go ahead and end this one here. If you like the content, please consider subscribing and go ahead and smash that like button, and I'm gonna see you guys in the next one.